welcome back to the greenhouse. We're out here with our new LED grow lights here. I don't know if you can see that there. And we're going to talk about the spectrum, the overall use, and the cost of these lights. And I'm pretty fascinated with them. We've never had any lights out in the greenhouse, so this is going to be a very cool experiment along this winter. So I'm going to break all this down for everybody and share the link to these lights. So if that sounds interesting to you, please consider subscribing to the channel. We're going to check out what the rest of the greenhouse looks like here. Simple on-off switch. Very, very nice seal on this, and I have it running to a timer. So we're running these lights on that timer for about 3 to 5 hours. So a 4-hour average, and this is all experimental. You can see my steaming bucket of water over here. Man, that feels good. It's actually quite warm. It's just a bucket we use to add some thermal mass to this tunnel or to this end by all of our plants here. All these grow lights here, all these LED lights are using about 25 watts per light. We have 12 lights here for 300 watt use per hour. So it's a heavy draw for our normal talk. We're usually talking about very minimal draw systems, so this is a high draw, and I'm going to pay for this. So how much am I going to have to pay to operate these for the winter time for 4 hours on average every single night? We're going to be using watts and kilowatts to measure our usage, and that's how I relate it to what we're actually going to pay, because that's how the companies actually relate it to what we're going to pay. We pay for a kilowatt, and it's about 28 cents per kilowatt in our area right now, give or take. So at 4 hours a night and 300 watts per hour, we're using about 1200 watts per night, and that's really not that bad. I'm starting to warm up here. That fire and the little blower I have blowing all this heat down here is working great. We're staving off negative temperatures. We are 50 degrees, so that is a 50-55 degree swing from outside our greenhouse. It's absolutely nuts. Back to the grow lights here. So at 300 watts per hour and 4 hours on average is what we're going to say. We're going to use them for 4 hours per night. So that is 1200 watts a day, or 1.2 kilowatts a day. We're going to take all that times 30, the average days in a month, and we're going to come up with about 36 kilowatts used, and we're going to multiply that by 0.28, 28 cents. On average, it's going to cost us about $10 to $10.50 just to pay for these lights, and that's right where I wanted to be. I wanted to be as minimal as possible. So LED is the way to go as far as paying for things and being on the cheap side. So I've used LEDs in the basement and in the garage. They are not very strong. They have to be like right there on your plant. The website actually showed 9 feet above these plants on the ceiling where all of our tunnel lights are and stuff, our little solar lights up there. As I was reading further, it stated that it was like more like 3 to 5 feet above your plants, and closer the better. So we went with right above the tunnels, and I'm going to walk through all this. I just wanted to state how much these cost, and on average these systems are about $90 to $100 for decent lights. You can find $50-$60 lights for 12, but they might not be as waterproof, they might not last as long. This seems to be a good brand. They showed spraying them with a hose and all that stuff, and they take good care to make a good seal. When I was tightening those lights, they really go in there and they have a good suction seal, so I'm not in fear of these causing a fire or anything like that. We have a nice GFI outlet that is protected, so we do not overdraw this by any means. So the 4 to 5 months we have left in winter could cost us about $50 to $60 to run these lights for 4 hours every night, and I'm okay with that. I can afford that. That's a couple plants at the market when we start selling, a couple elderberries and a fig tree, so we can recoup those losses very easily as an investment to grow ourselves some darn healthy food in the winter time. Now these lights do have the wide range and wide spectrum. They have white light, they have the blue light, and the red light, so they've got everything to go all the way through. I just want to highlight this little tomato down here. He's been surviving off this thermal mass for months now as a sprout, but he's actually growing some new leaves. He doesn't have the first developmental leaves. So the first thing I want to state about these lights is that they do produce a minute amount of heat. This extra light here over this water, I want to cover the water to reduce algae growth, but I want to grow some stuff down here. We've got our thyme and oregano and some random weeds. Once we get our solar heater set up, we'll have plenty of room to grow right here off the thermal bank and the extra light there. So you can see on the first row, I actually hooked up wires all the way to the roof, all the way to the ceiling here. And then I'm gonna head down. You can see just how bright these lights are and how much they are actually changing the growth pattern or the phototropism of these plants. A lot of them were growing towards the south. Now they're growing straight up again. So that phototropism is observed, and it's quite interesting. So hopefully we can continue with the good growth, and hopefully these lights are successful, and the experimenting with them is going to be interesting. So all of these lights are inside the tunnel down on this end here, so they are actually hanging from the tunnel itself. So these are in the ground, very sturdy, and that is very important because you're holding up a poly, and now I have lights inside it. So we've actually got a geothermal tunnel with its own lights and everything going on in here. It is quite interesting to have all these in here. It looks like a spaceship outside at nighttime. And it's quite creepy in here too. You can see all of our work we've been doing on all of our brick making and cement making. All the goodies down here. So dark down here. You can see this DIY rig running off this battery that we had stored a bunch of solar energy into. This thing is just cranking tons and tons of heat from down on this end down to the other end. Turn this off. We're going to be using this to heat up some water and thermal mass from our stove and kind of triple down on all of the things we can do with it, because we haven't been running our Jean-Pain water yet. I'm waiting to switch over to our PEX tubing and stuff. So there's just a whole lot going on with this, and I've just been drawing air. So there is always a whole lot going on in the greenhouse here, and it's quite warm right now for being so darn cold outside. It is so cool to see all of these plants really popping, growing straight up. We released all of these ladybugs in here. They were huddling together for warmth there because it was getting chilly in here. We were seeing about 45 degrees over nighttime. Ladybugs all over, eating all of any pests that we actually had in the greenhouse here. So lots of spinach, shards, lots of lettuces, kales. Our peas did not like the dark spell that it just went through, but we've got sprouts popping through all over. It is so cool to see little sprouts coming up, see little life. And it's absolutely freezing outside, so to be able to have this greenhouse so darn warm, so darn cheap is quite interesting. Let's jump on down to these 7 top turnips here. These are just beautiful. We've got ourselves a little beneficial friend here. Very cool. See them all over, keeping every plant clean. These 7 top turnips are just so vigorous. They must have had a small infestation because that is where the ladybugs went. So lots of Egyptian onions. We've got rosemary, our cement brick. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. All of our heading collards here, freshly transplanted a week or 2 ago. And then we've got more onions and some weaker heading collards. We're going to sow out really heavy. We'll intercrop lettuces and stuff in all this, because we are really going to take advantage of this area right here in between our water source where we have a good thermal mass and the end of the bed. We've got plenty of room to grow a bunch more crops aside from everything we've got going on in here right now. So if anybody's got any questions, drop them in the comments below. I love to have conversations with everybody. My subscribers are awesome, and thank every single one of you for being here and watching the videos and all of the input you guys give me. So I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and look to the link for these lights in the description below.